Contestant favoritism is nothing new for the All Stars franchise. They've been doing it all the way back since season 1 when Chad won. Some seasons they are a little more covert about how they show their cards. I think season 3, 4, and even All Stars 9 are really great examples of times where they hid who they were favoring. And other seasons like 1, 5, 8, and this one are more overt in their approach to showing their cards. It's a new week and the same stunts as last week. I want to start by saying that I was somewhat confused by the through line of this challenge. They kept referencing Hoedown Throwdown, which is a Miley song, kind of in the same way that they kept referencing Good Luck Babe during the Chapel episode, but then didn't use that song. And then they did this throwaway Miley runway, only to result in the lip sync song being See You Again? A Meet Miley song, when they kept referencing a completely different album. It was so disarmingly confusing. It would have been like if they had done a Titanic challenge with a Celine runway, and then the lip sync song would have been like Last to Know. Like, what? It would have been like during the Murder on the Dance Floor episode where they titled the challenge that and they kept saying Murder on the Dance Floor, and then if they had done a completely different lip sync song. It's such a minor complaint among all of the shenanigans that happened in this episode. Because as you know, if she shenans once, she's gonna shenan again. And oh, did they shenan. This week, Ginger remains the golden shower child of the production team. Which again, doesn't really surprise me, and I mentioned that last week. She's a country diva, and in no universe were they ever going to not give her a win, when this is literally right on her alley. And that favoritism showed up, not just in the episode, but also in that lip sync. Kind of similar to last week. I want to remind everyone, once again, that this is a TV show, and if you are feeling steamed about Ginger winning yet another challenge, like I might be, let's all remember that this will be over really soon and we can go about our lives until another All-Star season rolls around, and then production can show us a new favorite that they've got from the Drag Race pool, and then we can all be kind of grouchy about that too. Last week, I got a couple of notes from some commenters that the background music that I chose was distracting. Personally, I disagree with that. I come from a YouTube era where you put background music behind everything you post, even if it doesn't call for music. That's the aesthetic I like from my content, on top of the fact that I hate the ambient sounds of my apartment and people that are in the background across the hallway, cats jingling around. I don't do a lot of crazy jump cuts. I don't do scenery changes. I don't do backgrounds with tons of clips playing. I try to keep this as mid-stimulating as possible. Just you and me talking with a handful of visuals to keep y'all's attention. This week, I chose a different BGM, but background music is what I like for the production of my content, so I won't be eliminating it entirely, but I'm willing to try something different. On to the episode. Everyone was super judicial this week with the former teams giving points to each other. And honestly, I think this is a good way to start out the energy of the season. Don't rock any boats. It's a lot like how you don't want to just attack your fellow competitors in a game like Catan or something right off the bat. You kind of want to give it a couple rounds to let the room mellow and linger, unless you're a super competitive gamer like how Mistress was in the last bracket, in which case you just immediately rock the boat and set everybody off on rough waves. I could sense that Acid really wanted to deviate from the group, but ultimately she chose to trade her point with Denali. I think this was a good move. Her hemming up her speech with Denali was peak entertainment. And there's just something about Acid Betty that makes me smile. Her comforting, like, uncle energy, like that cool uncle that isn't married, has no kids, shows up to the function, always is like the best dressed, and you think, what do you do? I just want to get to know you. You're cool. She's got this soul that radiates comfort and joy and light, despite Betty's kind of on camera presence as being someone who's a little firmer and tougher. And it's almost to Cynthia's credit for her opening up this kind of rough shelled exterior and allowing us to see the soft sweet inside that is Acid Betty. Our mini challenge is a 30th anniversary Clueless tribute, which only kind of further confused the through line of this challenge. And to be honest, I would have loved Bosco in this challenge. This seems like right on her runway. But I digress. Denali won because she looked puss and sickening and absolutely obliterated the challenge. How did she not look like it was 20-minute drag? Like, that was crazy. And the maxi is announced as something called Stagecooch, a country hoedown parody where they have to pair off in groups of 3 and present 2 rival songs. Either about heartbreak and revenge, very Carrie Underwood Before He Cheats vibes, or a song about how to get a man's attention, which I would certainly associate more with like masculine country music, since a lot of that is like, take off your shirt and let's get drunk and let's fuck on the rug. The internet keeps talking about a certain phenomenon that honestly I didn't notice last week, but I did notice this week, and that's the inconsistency of Denali's hair in confessionals. I don't know how I didn't notice that last week. Maybe because I was looking this way when Denali was on camera. Either they called Denali in for pickups later and her hair length was obviously longer, or Denali styled her hair in a way that when she woke up in the morning and her hair was flat, it just appears longer in certain scenes, and then maybe she like puts it up in a bun right before they go in the workroom to eat breakfast, takes it down, and then it's a little crunchy curly. That's the only thing that I can think of if it was not a pickup later. But it is a little disarming, I'll be honest. The entire room wants the sexy song, and I don't blame them because that was honestly the better version of the two. Daya switches her concept to the heartbreak one because she's a bad bitch and she can do anything. And Ginger also chooses to do the aggro song, very likely because she knows she's got this challenge in the bag. She's a country singer. Of course she's going to do well in either one of the country songs. Like, she doesn't even have to try that hard. Like, this is her bread and butter, you know? I don't have a ton to say about the recording and the choreography process because a lot of this in these challenges are a lot of padded drag race fluff. But I did appreciate Alyssa flirting with Orville because honestly I would have too. And while getting ready, Acid talks about strategy with the points. These points can either be used to make everyone feel good, or they could be used to be strategic. And I remember talking about this in week 1 of my reviews of this season. If it is not gonna be me, who do I want it to be? That's how I would play the game as a strategist. If I get in that room and realize they don't care about me, I would think, how can I assist someone else and circumvent what they're trying to do? They want us to be kumbaya. They want us to just keep our points down so that they can push their favorites. So who could I scoot to the next round, and who could I convince the room to scoot with me? And Acid thinks that all the bottom girls should rally together behind one contestant. I think it'll be hard to choose who that's gonna be because they're all gonna wanna go to the next round. But realistically, if they're not being favored now, they're not gonna be favored later. So who has the best shot? Of this room, I would look at either Denali or Daya. And I think that's the way to play this game in a non-malicious way. I could see her rallying behind Denali and give her a really strong dent in points so that not even Ginger could beat her out into going to the next round. More on this later because I have a really long theory about this. Wait till the end. In the challenge, I immediately spotted baby daddy Sebastian. If you remember, he was in season 17 doing pit crew stuff. I need him so bad. Cynthia was quite disconnected with the lyrics as a whole. She does this thing when she lip syncs. You know that thing where she lip syncs out of the bottom corners of her mouth, like Joan Cusack talking. Her look was also fairly discombobulated with the country theme, in my opinion. Daya was very on topic look-wise for the challenge. I love this pleather look with the belts and the studs. She just looked hot. Like, to me, I was getting grunge Miranda Lambert. Ginger was giving this like tacky morph baby of like Tanya Tucker and Reba. I liked this look, and I think her presence was really fun in the challenge. She obviously was the strongest singer of this group and had the best essence of what country is. And she did excellent in the country challenge. But also, the sky is above us. So, in my opinion, I think what made Ginger stand out the most is that while the others were trying to deliver sensible country diva, Ginger was in the center of the group pulling faces, exaggerating her eye and mouth movements, exaggerating her body, not taking it too seriously. And that always makes you stand out in either a positive way or a negative way, depending on how the judges feel about you. And I think when you've got two divas who are really taking it very seriously and trying super hard to deliver this like glam country lady, and you're in the middle being silly, that's obviously going to be something that's going to catch Ru's eyes. Ru always loves comedy over earnestness. I like this group overall, and I think specifically Daya kept up with Ginger in kind of an unexpected way. In group 2, what I love the most is that they chose to block separately in the opening scene, with Denali and Alyssa off to opposite sides, so that Acid could just shine in the center for a bit. That look, by the way, was insanity. This crushed glass illusion with what appeared to be LED strips in between the tiles was a mouth drop. I have chills again thinking about this. And I really liked that hair, even if Michelle didn't. That bucket hair was very rodeo to me. Her vocals were great, and I loved what she was doing when the camera was not on her, but you could still see her in the background. She was quasi-flirting with the band members and pulling comedy mug in the same way that Ginger was. But she did it all in a way that wasn't gimmicky. It was like she was just having fun at the country hoedown. And again, it was very similar to what Ginger did, because while Alyssa and Denali were trying to give demure country women, Acid was being silly and cutting looks, exaggerating her features, extending her mouth movements, and exaggerating eye bulges. For me, she was right there with Ginger in the performance and comedy department, and was a, I think, strong foil to Ginger's win there. Overall, I liked Alyssa's color palette she chose because it was a nice happy medium between this chromatica that Acid was doing and Denali's purple saturation. So Alyssa's blue was the bridge between them. I loved her presentation, but that weird Ginger Minge voice from the Side Hustles challenge. Do you remember when she was dressed like Carrot Top and she was in that challenge like, I don't know what I'm doing here. That voice choice that Alyssa did needed Jesus. I don't even understand why she thought that was a good idea. Like Madame LaQueer did that in season 4 by choosing to be like a demure British woman, but then just sounded Russian. I don't understand these choices that some of these girlies make that change their entire essence. Just be you. They don't want you to be someone else. Unless you can do a really good job like Irene did in the first bracket by going in that Southern Belle route, because she absolutely killed that. Denali was maybe the most off topic from country to me. For me, Ostrich doesn't read country diva. Neither did her color of purple choice, but performance-wise, she ate up that stage. Her vocals were on point and her rhymes were on par with what we expect from Denali in the songwriting category of Drag Race. They have a very limited time to say what needs to be said, and Denali always knows how to do that with that time constraint. And she knows how to do it well. Denali also coordinated this thing well. She made sure that the others were able to stand out and keep up with her, took advice that they gave her to make sure that they all shined properly and that it wasn't just her steamrolling over these girls in this challenge, because she easily could have done that. And I think she could have been praised a little more for how fluidly she blocked that choreography. Then we get to the runway prompt, a night of 1,000 Mileys. It was actually just 6, but who's counting? The entirety of these divas went for either VMA or Grammys looks. And I think there's something to say about that with how impactful some of these looks are that Miley's done, because they've been drag mama. However, I wish that some of them had gone with a younger Miley, maybe even a Hannah Montana reference. Hannah Montana! This also easily could have been the Wild Wild West runway from the last bracket, and I think this Miley category probably could have been lobbed over to season 18 because that pool of queens would likely be much younger, would have grown up with Miley, and would have a lot more reverence for her with some of her older, more dated looks. And I think it would have been really fun to see what an entirely younger group would have done for such a young pop star. That out of the way. Acid was first out and did the 2015 VMA look. For me, there are two ways of doing a night of 1,000 whoever's. Either it is so authentic that it's like, whoa, Carrie got that dress. Or it's transferred and filtered so heavily through an aesthetic that it's like Charity Case doing the Spice Girls. It is just completely transformed into something new. But you still understand what the reference is, and it's very clearly this is you doing that. Acid went more on that transformative side, which I appreciated because that felt more authentic to her, rather than doing a one-for-one recreation. Acid's drag is nowhere near as exposed as what this original look was. I could never see Acid wearing something like that on the main stage or in real life. And so I'm glad that she chose to do it through what her drag looks like. She also did something interesting, which was rhinestoned the breast contour. I thought that was visually very fascinating, and I don't think I've seen that before on Drag Race. Maybe I have and I'm forgetting, but that brought it to a camp place, which I definitely think of Acid's drag as being a little more campy. I think she deviated from the look quite a bit, adding gloves where there were none before, changing the shoe as well as subbing in a headpiece, and of course the signature Acid Betty mohawk. However, I didn't have as much of a problem with this because in another universe, Evie Oddly is heavily praised for her extreme deviation from Dolly Parton and is told that she made Dolly her own, and that's what solidifies her win in that Y2K girl group challenge. I think this week could have been Acid's espresso. This could have been her Dolly Parton runway. I just wish that the shoe was white like the original. A boot would not have worked here, so I think a pump was required, especially for the length of that jeweled net. The color being nude just didn't work for me personally, but that's a very small nitpicky detail. Ranking this lineup, Acid Betty was my number 2. Alyssa Hunter is next, doing that iconic 2024 Bob Mackie look. This likely had just happened right before filming, so this very likely was a very quick design and runoff to Drag Race. So I don't fault the outfit for taking a couple deviations. The original garment was stoned and beaded within an inch of its life, and that would either take a very long time to construct or commission. And so with that time restraint and efficiency being the first priority when going to Drag Race, I don't take a lot of umbrage with it being a more tinsely fabric to create the skirt instead of that bejeweled one, because I think that the tinsel was still somewhat eye-catching. And I think overall it was a very earnest take on this look. I think the hair could have been feathered just a bit more and maybe not been the typical Drag Race wop, because a huge part of that look was Miley's hair. I remember everyone talking about not only the dress and that she got Bob Mackie, but specifically that her hair was just bouncing in these beautiful waves and curls on that stage, and no one could stop talking about Miley's hair. And so I wish that the hair was just a little bit different and a little more authentic to the original look. My last critique of this look, and I promise I really liked it, a bitch needed to wear some panties. In the words of a famous woman, panties, bitch. Her skirt bounced up and all it was doll puss. Put on a thong or something, diva. Panties, bitch. I put Alyssa's look at number 3. Up next is Denali in the 2013 VMA look. This look was iconic as well, not only Denali's interpretation, but also Miley's original. And I sort of forgot that Miley has delivered some looks in her time in the limelight. This was a fantastic middle ground of authentic recreation with some slight twists to make the look even draggier. And of course to highlight Denali's features and figure. I love the reveal to the nude with the foam finger. I think Denali took the essence of Miley and infused that into her performance and presentation of that look. She was the most Miley-esque in the way that she moved down the runway. No notes. Cynthia was next in the 2015 VMA look. She absolutely was. I remember this look, and I remember the chokehold that it had on queer culture, because Miley featured so many drag artists in that number, and it was a gag, and it was a really huge celebration of drag on a stage that wasn't necessarily expecting that or craving that at the time, but Miley said, I'm gonna break down doors and do this anyway. In my humblest opinion, I don't think this was a great recreation of the look, and I think honestly it swallowed up Cynthia. Miss Cuckoo was wearing so much that she got lost in it, and I appreciate that she wanted to pay homage to this look. It is iconic, and it shows a really sweet and soft side to Miley's allyship. And I appreciated the nude illusion that Cynthia did, but ultimately I think it was just a little restraining for her movements. And I think the coat even could have come off so that she could have had a little more movement on the stage. Also, This is a super weird personal gripe. I have never been a fan of the geisha wig hair on drag queens. It just doesn't tickle my brain fiercely. I just think they're ugly. And I didn't think it worked for this look. She could have gone with so many different things. This was my number 4 in the ranking. Daya is next, wearing Miley's 2013 Met Gala look. Maybe it's because I'm not a mega Miley stan or anything. Like, I like Miley and I like what she's done, but I haven't followed her super closely. I don't think this was that much of a cultural moment. It was very pared down grunge, which is not what I associate with Daya at all. Daya's drag is overt punk grunge, much like her performance look. And this was maybe too muted of a look for what Daya normally does. And I can appreciate wanting to show some variety in your looks. I really do. But I wonder if this was maybe her second option or her backup. And I do like what this was. I just don't know if it was the best intersection of where Miley's looks are and where Daya's drag is. And I certainly don't think it was the most memorable Miley moment that could have been pulled from. For me, para mí, this was my number 5. Ginger is last in the 2017 VMA look. Of everyone in this bracket, Ginger easily could have pulled off the Hannah Montana look. And I appreciated that Ginger took scale into this, making the rings on the side a little bit bigger so that it was proportionized. I think the volume of this look worked for Ginger in the way that she interpreted it. And where I liked some of the changes that the other girls did, like Alyssa choosing a more tinsely fabric instead of the jewels. Acid doing gloves and a pump, making these small aesthetic changes so that it fit with their drag. Or even Daya making that slip dress under the net be a more golden color because it matched her complexion better than a true beige nude illusion. I didn't quite understand why Ginger turned the bandeau into a cross-neck halter. Like, do I see Ginger Minj wearing a bandeau? No. But I also didn't get why it happened. Ginger's done nude illusion before, and I don't understand why she didn't just do a nude illusion net top with the bandeau, had the waist exposed, and then had the jacket open. The very demure zipped up with the cross neck, it just didn't work for me. And I don't think that change was necessary because the rest of the garment was so authentic to what Miley did, even down to the studding. She even nailed hoop earrings. So I didn't understand going so authentic with everything else and then making these small aesthetic changes. And in season 7, I remember her referring to herself as Elvis Presley. And to me, this was definitely more Elvis than Miley, where I wish that she leaned in on that original Miley look just a bit more, because I know that she can do it. Based on the challenge and the runway execution, my number 1 was obviously Denali. And then it was between Ginger and Acid for me, because they were both on par with each other in the challenge aspect. And I think ultimately, Acid won because I liked her runway better. I just want to say, echoing from last week, Ginger's not a girly that needs help from production. She can get to the finale all on her own, even if the challenges are kind of stacked against her. And this season, I feel like the producers are treating her like she couldn't get there on her own. Like, I think if you had stuck Ginger in any of the previous other challenges, I think she would have done solidly and won at least a couple of them. And I almost feel bad for Ginger because fans are picking up on this and are wondering if production thinks that Ginger cannot win a season without a little bit of help. And the truth is that she absolutely could. So it's kind of weird to see them lean in so hard on forcing her to the end when I don't think that she necessarily needs that. Someone last week referenced the Pink Table Talk challenge and how there was a group that did really good. It was Trinity, Eureka, and Akiria, but Ginger was called as the winner randomly and out of nowhere. These moments where production pushes her to give her a win feel a little bit like, do they think we're stupid? So Ginger and Denali are the top 2. The lip sync was fun to watch because of Denali, but every time she started to do anything either armography or handography wise, it would immediately cut to Ginger just standing there like that emoji of that person standing there. Like, Ginger was fun and all, but was she doing anything that required cutting away from Denali's performance? This was a Jinx and Monet level of, you really don't want us to see what the other girl is doing. When Denali did that flip from the ground, my mouth dropped. I can't do that. A lot of people in the performance universe can't do that. A lot of people on Drag Race can't do that. I, as an audience member, am expecting big movements. Garish performances like what Miley often does. This was not Ginger's phone moment like they wanted us to think it was. And it makes me wonder if production thinks we're dumb. Like, they think we wouldn't notice that Ginger wasn't doing anything. This is a Miley song, for Christ's sake. You don't park and bark to Miley. You bounce on the stage, you have fun, you do tricks, you have a lot of energy. Imagine in an alternate universe where Leaky Cyst Soju, sorry for bringing up her name, won Best of Both Worlds for just standing there while Kahana was dancing around that stage like a sniper was on her. I'm talking about this lip sync for far too long. In my opinion, Ginger did not win this one in the same way she did not win last week. Also, this song should have been Hoedown Throwdown. Also, Shea Coulee deserved to be Black China. Also, Spicy Sunshine should have been eliminated before the finale of Thailand 3. Next week is a Bitchler parody using actual dogs. I hate that. I hate it a lot. I feel my cringe levels rising because not only is Alyssa Hunter here, who is not a great actress, Cynthia's here, who's also not a great actress, and Acid is here, who was not very good at acting in her season. I'm early predicting that Alyssa and Cuckoo are gonna be unwatchable levels of cringe. Denali will likely be passable, and I think this is going to be Acid's week to get a top. If she creates as much friction in the workroom in the cold open as I think she's going to. Here's my early prediction, just what I'm seeing written on the walls. And if production is smart, they're gonna damage control by dangling a carrot in front of Acid to make sure that she doesn't rally the girls too fiercely behind anyone. Because with the right strategic moves, Acid could rock this boat to a point that tips it over. So remember what I said earlier about Denali. If Acid gets Cuckoo and Alyssa to rally behind Denali and she gives her point to Denali as well, that scoots Denali up into 5 points. That puts her almost right at the top of the pack. Daya likely is not going to go along with this plan and maybe will give her point to Ginger just out of spite for rallying against her. And if that happens, and if producers behave in a way that I think they usually do, they will want to stop Acid from doing that again and propelling somebody else maybe into a higher placement than Daya. So if they give her a win and distract her so that she's too excited about having a potential win and getting to lip sync, maybe getting her first win ever, she won't, in Untucked, convince all the girls to rally maybe for Cuckoo. If Ginger wins the lip sync against Acid, which I'm already feeling like Ginger's gonna be in the top because it's an improv challenge and an acting challenge that's clearly in her wheelhouse, that's gonna put her all the way at the top of the pack, maybe at like 9 or 10 points. Math-wise, there's a lot of math happening in my head right now, but I won't confuse all of you with it. This could potentially outcome to Daya and Acid are the ones that Rue has to choose between, depending on how that final round of MVQ points get distributed. And then mathematically, Rue would have to choose someone. I also did all this math after about 17 hours of being awake, so my brain was a little fried at the time, but I do feel very heavily like Acid is going to rally the girls behind someone in the cold open next week. Producers are not going to like that and are gonna wanna stop her from doing it again. So no matter how she performs, they're gonna be like, look, you might win. Don't pay attention to the MVQ points. Look, Acid, you could win. Look at this, little carrot. And they're gonna put their gnarly little fingers on top of that wheel and drive the car in the direction they want it to go. What did you think about the episode this week? If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and if you would like to support the channel in a different way, you can join the Extravaganza Extra Members Program, which allows you to watch some of my posted videos a few days earlier. I am very behind on getting edits done, but I promise that some of them will be done on time for those of you who are a part of that membership group. Thank you for being patient. And remember to be cute in the comments. Also, I don't know why this needs to be said, but keep your damn spoilers to yourself. I deleted 4 comments last week because people were like, oh, next week this happens. Thankfully, I have a goldfish brain and already forgot, but there are people that read those who did not consent to being spoiled. Just because you did and you don't want to wait doesn't mean that the rest of the chat here does not also want to wait. Some people genuinely want to just wait and see what the episode is going to be. Don't post those, please. Thank you for watching, and I will see y'all on the flip.